Alrighty, everybody. Welcome to a tutorial on the Kenshi editor. Um, First off, it's actually really simple to use, but like with all new things, it really helps to have somebody sort of tell you the basics. And with every sort of system, there's always these little kinks that you have to work out and stuff. And I think the more you mod, the more you're going to learn different things. And with the editor, some things are impossible, but when I say that, you should ignore that completely, because if you dream up something that you really want, you should aim to do it by any means necessary, and bending the editor to your will, and eventually not give up, but move on to different things and adapt. But the basics are fairly simple. There's a few things that aren't really intuitive, but you'll get the hang of it when you do it. So you'll start off with this window, and these are, I'll just go through pretty much everything. So these are the game files, pretty much. So these should always just be active. At least that's what I always do. And here's a mod that I've sort of started working on, but then I've given up because I always start new projects, and then I move on to other things, and then always come up with something new, and I can't really focus on one thing. But it's a good thing actually to have maybe many projects, because then you learn these different things that you do, and then you can compile them all into a mod that you like. But let's just start off with creating a new mod file. So this is the mod that you're going to be making, and we're going to make this mod. I don't know, people always name it like test mods and stuff, but yeah, out of lack of originality, there we go, test mod. And you should untick all the other mods when you're working on something, because then it will load up both of those mods, and you can merge mods. I think I tried that once and it didn't work, but that was a long while ago, so maybe it works now, or maybe I did something wrong. But here we go. So you tick this one, and what the active says, it just means that it is active, so you don't have to worry about that. So this is the test mod, and if you want to translate stuff, this, I've never actually used it because I've never translated anything, so we'll just ignore that as well. But this is, in all simplicity, you click here, write a name, and that's all you need to do to get started. And once you're done, you have this window that should always be open and will always be open. You can't close it. You can shove it out of the way. But this is where the magic happens, so to speak. And it's for me personally, I should have done this tutorial a long time ago, because now I'm so accustomed to this that I might like skip a few details here and there. But I'll try and be as specific as I can, and trying to think that what I would like to hear if I didn't know anything about the editor. So most of these have sub what would you call them, subcategories, but let's focus on the basic ones for now. So this is not a list of all the buildings, and I'll just open it up a little bit so you can see that there's walls, furniture, exterior, there's nodes, which are places where people stand on, and they're named differently. Doors, parts are the specific parts of a building, and you don't really need to edit these, especially at first. I've done a little bit of that for a certain mod, but it's you don't really need those right now. The materials are also have to do with the parts, and functionalities are what the building does. So you can create let's say a table that cages prisoners or something, if you want to. farm data, I actually never tried or never checked this out, but it has, you know, pretty self-explanatory. It has all the different farm types, and you can mess around with them at some point. Lights are lights, plants are plants. I guess this is a pretty self-explanatory. All the buildings in the game can be found here and can be edited here, and I'll go to more detail of what different things you can do with the buildings later. And this is where the items live. And again, this main category is for just like simple items. Like you can find all kinds of random stuff here, like cotton, copper, and a fancy rug, or a head of a fog prince. Then you go to weapons, and you can find all these different weapon types, and they work a little bit differently from the items. And you should always add the thing that you're working on into its rightful place. As you can see, the weapons also, like the animals have a quote-unquote weapon of what they use, and it comes along with all this information that you can see here, but we'll go into more detail of that. Here are the models, the manufacturers. You can add those if you want to, and they, you know, do different things. But let's try and keep this beginning, at least, very simplified, or as simple as possible. So ranged weapons, self-explanatory pretty much. Bags, let me just see if there's anything worth mentioning here. Well, not for now, but one thing that if you want to create new items and completely create the whole 3D model, you need to have a program that I actually don't have installed right now because I had to reinstall everything. But some 3D editor, I use Blender because I think that's the one that you can. It's free, and you can find pretty good tutorials on it, and it does a lot of things. But I haven't worked on that too much. I did one bag for one of my mods, and that was enough for me to just give up and quit because I'm focused more on like well, pretty much writing things, creating things like that, and not models. But yeah, these pretty much are all self-explanatory as well. Don't worry about there being so many of these things. We just need to focus on what these things actually do. So this is the buildings, this is all the items, and what you can edit. The dialogue is actually a bit more complicated, but this is where they are. So every character has, well, most characters have a dialogue package, and in that package you will find dialogues, and these are single dialogues that you can create and write. And I'll just add here, you right click on an empty thing and then you create a new item, or then you choose an item which is not a dialogue, and then you can duplicate items or factions or whatever, but dialogue cannot be duplicated directly. I think I found a way how to do it, but I can't remember now. But it's really good to be able to duplicate a dialogue in some instances when you're messing with the editor. But for now, you just need to know that the dialogue package includes dialogues, and diplomatic assaults are things that I haven't messed up or messed around with too much. But they include all kinds of just like attack things that has something to do with diplomacy. Word swaps are for all kinds of things that that you sort of. Actually, let's not go into that because it's not very complicated, but it's something that I haven't messed around with too much, so I don't want to get bogged down in random stuff. World states is relatively important. So as you can see, world states is in the dialogue package subcategory. So it's good to sometimes just keep all of these open so you can find what you're looking for at first, but then you start remembering where everything is eventually. But these are things that, let's say, beep is dead. So what happens when beep is dead? Well, no, it's actually not what happens, but it's called beep is dead, and then inside there is that the beep NPC is 0, and it's in many cases, for example here, the value of this number is either 1 or 0, and actually, yeah, there you go. There's 3 values, so one value is imprisoned, so 1 is alive, 0 is dead, and 2 is imprisoned. And there's a lot of different values for different things, but it is, again, very self-explanatory, but it's good to note at this point that true or false questions or statements, they usually have just like 0, 1, and then possibly 2. But this means that beep is dead when beep is no longer alive or in existence. And you can use these world states to alter different events, and we'll go into that more a little bit. And I'm sorry for being a little bit not that structured with this tutorial, because I haven't written anything down or anything. I'm just looking at it and going through it. But this is enough for that. So dialogue package includes the dialogues, and then it also includes some of these things. And these are all like single lines of dialogue. They're all named the same. But you don't really need to go here, I don't think. I've never had to. So races, again, pretty self-explanatory. There's all the, I think the main races are, no, the main races are here, and you can add some if you want to, or you can duplicate a race and then start editing it. Sometimes it's good if you want the basic values of something to be the same. You don't have to write it all down again and again. But this is the main categories, and if you click one, you'll see that the races that humans include are those 2. And I guess Hive, you'll see that there's a Hive Prince, Drone, Soldier. These are the sort of the sub-races. And then these are the list of the sub-races. And here, this is where you create a sub-race, and then you add it to the list here. And personally, some things with the editor that I've done have only been possible by creating new races just for maybe a single character, so that you can make sure that certain dialogue happens only to that character, because the editor is fairly limited, which usually comes with simplicity. But this is, yeah, again, very self-explanatory, and don't be afraid to just click these open and keep clicking and clicking until you know, come to the very end. But you can just keep on clicking, and the more you click, the more sort of complicated it gets if you don't know what you're actually looking at. So first off, just start off with the basics. Maybe just click once and see what's in there, maybe twice. And this can seem overwhelming, but this will all start making sense once you get into the editor a bit more. So here are the characters, and this list includes all the characters in the game. And every let's take one example. I think she is a unique, or he is a unique character, which means that if she dies, she dies, and the dead NPCs thing in the game affects the unique NPCs pretty much only. And then there are like Refugee 1. Riva is used only once in the game, so there's only one Riva in the game. But then you can create a Red Saber gang by just using this same character many times in different groups. So you have 10 of the exact same copies of the Red Saber, and then you have one Red Saber boss somewhere. But there are certain things that you can do with a character that will randomize them a little bit. And in one of my mods, I randomized my sort of, I'll just call them pawns or whatever, the randomize the pawns so much that it became that you had to sort of make sure you check who you're fighting before you fought them, even though they were all called the same, and they all had like some of them were really bad fighters and some of them were good in one group, even though they were all the same group. So it made the combat more interesting. But I guess the only thing that I have to say about this for now is that there are unique characters, and then there are characters just like generic dudes walking around. And the same thing, you can duplicate or create these, and then you could just rename them differently, and then just use their stats as like a board to build upon. Over here you see the stats, so there's all these kind of stats that are already there, but you can create a totally personalized character. If you want to have your like old character, if you're starting a new game and you want your old character with their stats to be in the game just randomly walking around, you can just create a new stat here. Let's say 50. It's like pretty much everything combat related is 50, but you can edit all of these to your liking. And the only thing of note that I have to say about this is that you need to, when you're making a mod, you need to sort of sometimes create the stats based on when a person is going to get there, and do you want a person to get there in the early game, and balance the stats out also to the surrounding areas, because you don't want a single group of like 10 people just like randomly attacking some random town and just killing everybody. So you need to sort of think about the stat placement on the map a little bit and things like that. But it's again, nothing too complicated, but at this point I guess that's all I have to say about that. Personalities, they affect dialogue options, and I think these days you used to be able to randomize or give value to dialogue options, so that there was a chance for a dialogue to happen, or there was a check for one dialogue to happen before the other one. But I'm not sure if that's the case anymore. So these days you have to one good limiting factor for a dialogue is the personality. So let's say you have a honorable person. If you give a character this trait, and you can add it in the characters over here. Let's see if this guy has any personality. Sounds a bit rude, but no, he doesn't have any personality, I guess. But you can add a personality check, so an honorable character will not say certain things, and then in the dialogue package you can make sure that an honorable person never says something that is dishonorable, or a fearful person is suddenly brave, or things like that. And there's a few options with the personalities. I'll check them out real quick. So this is you don't have to worry about this too much, but this is the list of personalities, and you can also use these as limiting factors in certain characters where well, yeah, let's not get into that too much, but you can use these as a limiting factor in dialogue, and you can direct the conversation where it's going to go based on what type of a person the NPC is. I've tested it out, and these have no effect on your characters. If a character becomes a part of your group, these factors will disappear, and it sort of sucks, but I'm sure there was maybe a reason for it. But that's actually a good point to state out at this point as well, which is that the player characters are treated very differently from the NPC characters, which is very limiting in many ways. But it's good to know that right now, because later when you're doing something, many things that you would sort of want to happen just won't happen. Like, let's say a person from your squad is wants to join a squad of random people that are roaming around, you can't do that, and you can't make NPCs join another squad in game through dialogue or through whatever means. And actually, let's go a little bit back to the dialogues. Dialogues are the main way of not only interactions between people and NPCs and stuff, but it also has most of the sort of effects take place. So if somebody says something random in the game, you can add an effect to that line of dialogue, and then if the person says that a piece of dialogue, something will happen. But we'll go into more detail in that. But dialogue is pretty important when it comes to that. So these are pretty self-explanatory as well. Just head stuff, different animals, hairdos, and beards, it seems, yeah. Alright, so that's with the characters. So all the characters are here. Some of them are you can see hundreds of in the game, and some of them you just see one in the game. And you can choose which type of character your character is once you create it. Animations are something that I edited one or two things for one mod. I removed the anime running thing, and I actually never play the game without it. But it came with some problems because I didn't really delve deep into it. So if you're bodyguarding someone with your weapon undrawn or drawn, then your character will run real funny. And I still haven't actually fixed it, but I've been working on other things, and I've actually had a really long break from Kenshi and modding altogether. So this is something that you won't really need for anything when you're starting off. Factions. This is the list of all the factions in game, and as you can see, the spiders have their own faction, and creating new factions is also a very good sort of limiting factor in the game itself, where you can the dialogue, make a dialogue check. If somebody is of this faction, then they will, or somebody will respond in a certain way and stuff. So you can directly sort of limit the group of people that will interact with each other, and you can also make let's see if this one has the option here. Yeah, so here, no, it's not. There we go. Not real, for example, just means that this faction is only there as a name, but it has no relation effects or anything, so you can't really anger the whole spider community. They're just animals, and you can use this to your advantage as well sometimes if you want to create characters that are sort of, let's say, a part of a group, like some sort of, I don't know, just random people walking around the world and don't really interact with each other, but you just need to give them a faction for simplicity's sake. Then you can make it so that if you kill a few of them, they won't be angry about it. The rest of the random people community won't know about what you did to the other people. Under the factions category or tab is squads. And these are all the squads that are in the game. And this is something that I'll get back to when I do a more detailed view on all of this. But if you want to create a squad, you will have to create characters for the squad. So usually when I start working on something, I have an idea. Then I start with, let's say, faction. Then I jump to squads, and I'm like, oh crap, I need to create the characters. Then I'm like, oh yeah, I need to create the stats for the characters. And then I go down the list of things, and I end up at the bottom, which is, let's say, stats for a certain character type, or just simply a character template that I can work with that I can put in the squad. But let's just open one of these up real quick and see. I don't want to get too complicated just yet, but this is where these might seem, you know, a little bit overwhelming as well, but just, you know, take your time and click through them and create a new mod and just change things a little bit just to get the, you know, the sort of feel for the editor. And some things will come intuitively, some things are very well explained, and also there's usually on the bottom there's some sort of explanation of what that thing does, and then you can use all that knowledge that you gain to create, let's say, just a single squad with a bit of dialogue, and you have them place somewhere in a town, a town of your choosing. But I won't get into that right now. I will get into it in a second because there's a few things that the editor does a bit counterintuitively. But this is where the squads are, and the squads include the characters pretty much. Special squads, I don't know why this exists really, but I'm guessing it's just a remnant of some other thing. I don't even know who this guy is. Faction templates are usually just for, you know, you have something to start with, excuse me, and then you work your way from there. Building swaps, I've never actually done anything with this, so I'll just have a brief look. But I'm guessing it's for certain maybe factions or something. I don't know. Alright, let's skip that for now. Trade culture is pretty simple as well. You have the Czech trade culture, and you give this to a town, or I think you give it to a faction, and you go into the factions. You click one of these, and then there's a trade culture. The cannibals don't trade. Randomly clicked on that one. Let's try. The free traders will definitely trade. So their trade culture is empire, but more worldly, which is a default setting of forbidden items, illegal buildings, illegal goods, and then trade prices for certain things. You don't need to set the prices for everything, but if you want there to be a special price for something, you can do that. And you can also, if you want to, like as a test, it's usually good to edit something that already exists, like take a town or a faction and edit that and change things and see what happens when you walk into the town. But also, well, no, that's not here. So trade culture is pretty much self-explanatory as well, and you can create a new one for a new faction where everything is legal or some random things are illegal, and whatever. You can play around with that, and it's pretty self-explanatory. Then to the towns, which hasn't got any subcategories, but this includes all the towns that are in the game, and it also includes towns like this, where you have bad teeth, and then something bad happens to bad teeth, then the new town will spawn on top of bad teeth. And this is actually what I did with my Take Over the World mod. I played around with this and world states, and I'll just quickly go through this. How the world states that we checked back here, where let's say Beep is dead. There he is. So Beep is dead. If Beep is dead, then Ark, let's say, would become yours, or would become some other factions. It will become like a Beep, whatchamacallit, what is that, tombstone, graveyard, some kind of memorial. But this is the list, and just, you know, take a little gander at all of this that it says. It's mostly pretty self-explanatory. There's a lot of information, but when you're doing something really specific, you don't really need to worry about all this. But just to go through what happens when a world state changes. So there's an override town here, and if I double click that, this is also, you can find it in the town list. And in this here you can see the world states that if these things are true, or if these things are this is what the world is like in Kenshi, where the Crab Bandit Queen is okay, so she's alive and not imprisoned or dead, but Valaman is alive is not true, then this town will appear in the place of the other town. So this is how reactive world mod works. So you delete these or add different ones, and now you can add a complex web of events where let's say two people from from separate parts of the world are dead, then something happens in a totally unrelated place, just as a test or something. So and the world states are mostly related to death or relations. And I tried this one out, and I'm not sure what this means or what this does. I'm not sure it does anything, but then again, I don't know everything. So I tried to set a world state where a town is okay, and then I attacked it and nothing changed no matter what I did. Or maybe I didn't test it thoroughly enough, which is also okay. So maybe the town is not okay when like all of them have died or something like that, like everybody in it has died or whatever. But mostly it's just as you can see, it's NPC is alive or is not alive. Where were we? The towns, right? So this is where you add a town, and this is where it actually gets maybe a little annoying sometimes. But if you create a town in game, you first have to create the town here, just a new item and just a name for the town. Then you have to go in game and go to the place where you want to place the town, open up the editor menu, and then choose town placement, and then drag or click the town on the left in the list and then place it where you want it to be placed. Then you can add buildings in the editor as well, and in the game editor, the in-game editor. And then once you're done with that, you save it into a mod. It's on the top right there, and I might show it to you in a moment. But on the top right, you will find save to mod or something like that, and then you choose your mod and save it. That saves the town into your mod. Then you come back here to the editor, and you go to factions, and first of all you need to give the town here, let's say Burns Tower, you need to give it a faction. Then the residents, there's a few different ways of spawning squads into the town, and the most counterintuitive thing about creating towns and populating them is that the squads here choose they choose the interior of the building and the exterior of the building, and they choose where they go pretty randomly. So let's see here if this squad doesn't have its own. The bakery definitely has its own building that it goes into. So just a brief look here. In the in-game editor, you need to make sure that if you want to create an interior for the building in the game editor, you create it, and then you save it under a name that you can remember precisely. So make sure that the name is exactly the same. The exterior is pretty irrelevant most of the time. It's only for signs and things like that. Everything else is in the interior. So you create the interior in game, you save it into the mod just like you saved the town, and then you come over here and you create a squad and you add the layout interior here exactly the way as it is in the game, and that way the squad that will spawn into the town hopefully will live inside a building that is called that has the same interior design and stuff. So it's I hope I made some sense when I explained this, because it's pretty weird. But basically, the squad decides which building it will go into based on pretty much this, and then there are some things that you can change, that you like buildings that they will not like to go into and things like that. And then there's also all this other stuff. But I'll try and go through like all of this pretty much in just a moment. But I'm getting bogged down here a little bit. But it's sort of, I remember things now, so I just want to say them. Right. So we were in towns, and that's done with. Right. Then there's locational damage. I don't think I've ever had to change any of this, because this is pretty, basic. It's just the damage to different body parts and what it does, and the bones are, I think, yeah. So this is more for the animations and things, I think. Biomes. This is something that you probably won't need that much. Or this list is not what you need, but you can check these things out and see what they do. There's different foliage, which is like just grass and trees and whatnot around the map. I'll just pretty much skip this completely, but this is where you find it. The only thing that you might really need from here is the spawn area. I'll just check this real quick. Yeah, so this one in the biomes is pretty important, so mark it down or write it down or whatever. This is where you choose what things spawn in certain biomes or certain areas of the map. So if you want to have random squads, like let's say you create a completely new faction and you want their squads to just like spawn and patrol the let's say the bone fields or the border zone, you need to add homeless spawns here, and that means that they're just squads without a base, even though they belong to a certain, let's say you've created a faction, you've created a town for the faction, and then you want these sort of homeless spawns to just randomly patrol the certain area of the map. You can add them here, and it's something that I frequently use when I'm doing something a little bigger. But you can also add just one squad that will randomly appear in this area, and this is what the chance is for the relative chance of that squad being spawned. So if you want to make a squad really rare and very unique to only one place, you can just increase all of these numbers and then put a 1 at the end of that really random event that you want to happen. But basically, if you want to add random events, or if you want to have certain patrols in certain areas, this is what you're gonna have to work with. The next is the AI packages, and this, boy, is this a pain in the ass sometimes, because this is the same with the dialogue packages. So this is a package for a person, a character or a squad, and it includes different goals. So let's take an example of something pretty basic. Well, a fog prince seems pretty basic. So, actually, let's do this the other way around. So let's start with the goals. So this is just different kinds of goals that a character will have. Let's say attack enemies and neutral. So if this character sees an enemy or a neutral, so pretty much anybody, they will attack them. So it's good for just like, well, cannibals or crazy people or whatever. I once did a character that through a dialogue, if you pissed them off, they would break out of their cage and then just go on a rampage, killing everybody in town until they were killed. And it was actually pretty hilarious. And I think, yeah, it was in an old mod that I made, and it was just like a little part of it, because I always like to, I create a mod and then I add these little spices into the mod, so that like these really random little things that I come up with, so that there's more to the mod that meets the eye sometimes, and it's fun to do things like this, because you can really surprise players with sometimes hilarious and sometimes, you know, pretty cool things when you create AI, create situations where the player actually has to maybe face some consequences from their dialogue actions and things like that. And I think for me it was like a Shek dude who'd been captured, and then you start, you know, messing with him. You're buying slaves and shit, and you start talking to him in his cage and tell him what a weak piece of crap he is, and then he just sort of, he's like, alright, watch this, and he starts breaking out of the cage, and then he runs out and gets a weapon from somewhere, and he's really like buffed up with his stats, because I created good stats for the character as well, and then he just starts like killing everybody around in the slave camp. It was pretty hilarious, but that's what you can do with these goals. And then you add these goals into the package of a single person, because a person just can't have one goal pretty much all the time. There needs to be other things, like let's say there should be like a let's try and find like a guard town, and I think this one, no shifts, is 24 hours. So let's just pick this one. Oh, this is really boring because it inherits from something. Actually, let's see. Inheriting from something means that also these are included. So you don't have to create a new set of rules for everybody. So you can just create a basic human flatline and then inherit from that, and then add special things to special characters. I'm not sure if that makes sense. I might speak like I assume that everybody knows what I'm talking about, but I'll try and word it differently, which is that if you have this basic human instinct of, let's say, you need to sleep, and you want all your human characters to go to sleep at some point during the day, and you can create, let's say, a AI package that is like night owls, and then you know, normal people, and then you can inherit either of those sets, which means that the person will do something during the day and then go to sleep at night, or maybe just go to sleep at night. But let's try this one. So yeah, this is more like it. This has a lot of different goals and a lot of different numbers, and it might look really complicated, but it's actually not. It can get a little complicated when you're trying to figure out what the best thing to do is, but let's just go through this real quick, because I don't think I need to come back to the AI goals. These are the more important things that I want to go into like better depth into, but this is pretty self-explanatory once you sort of get a hang of it. So the leader of the squad will have certain goals, and the squad, I think, will follow the leader AI goals if they don't have any separate goals. The values here are, the first value is the time of day. So for some reason here it protects allies from midnight to 1 hour, 100 hours, but the maximum is 23, and I think 24 counts as 0 as well. But this is just simply midnight. This is 8 in the morning. This is midnight. This is 8 p.m., 8 in the evening, and this is 8 in the morning again. So this is when this goal starts and when it ends, pretty much. And the value behind it is, what will it do? What will the person do first, pretty much, or what will they mainly do? So let's say you want somebody to, the leader of the squad, you don't want them to be unarmed, and or you want them to get out of bed when in trouble. So you can put this up to like 10 or something, let's say. It's usually good to start with a really high number so you can work your way down. But if your number is not high enough and you keep adding goals, that means that you're going to have to like increase the number of each and every one of them. So it's best to start with like, let's say there's 80 there, so start with 100, and then the next 100 is the maximum. That's the thing that the person will do no matter what the other goal is. Then go to 90, and then if you want to add something in between, you can always go to 91, 92, 93, and go in between them. And I hope, again, I'm making sense. But the point is just how important, pretty much how important is this job. So I would say that get out of bed when in trouble, when like shit hits the fan. It's like the the maximum thing that you want to do. And if your character is not in bed, it doesn't matter whether they get out of bed or not. But if they are in bed and something goes wrong, they get out of bed 24 hours a day, pretty much. Then the next thing might be to you wake up, there's trouble, well, you need to get a weapon. You don't want to be unarmed, and there's a goal for that. You put that as the second most important goal, is that you need to always be armed. Then there are other goals, like medic is after you've gotten out of bed and you've found yourself a weapon and you're not fighting any enemies, things have calmed down, then you medic the shit out of your friends who have fallen down, if you're not dead yourself. And then there's the basic job as static guard building. So you have the leader does all of this, and there's the inheritance comes in handy here, because you can add all of the get out of bed and things like that into one set of goals, and you can always add the inheritance of the basic human flatline, which is to get out of bed when there's trouble, find a weapon, defend your friends and yourself, and when things have calmed down, heal yourself, and then go back to the normal rhythm of the day. So then there's the slave AI, which is if the squad has slaves, the slaves will do this, which is their order, and these slaves will apparently get into a cage 24 hours a day, and this means that they will stay in the cage. So if you take them out, they'll just go back in if they can. And pretty simple, it's pretty straightforward, but you can really create interesting things with the AI. This is where your imagination can sort of take over. And if you see some things in the game, which I've seen a few times, where an AI just doesn't do what you would sort of expect them to do, maybe they act stupid, this is where you go to fix that. Then there's a squad AI. So every squad has, well, not every squad, but let's just, for the sake of argument here, or for the sake of making a point, every squad has a leader, which is a single character. Then they have a squad, which is created of, you can choose the number of the characters you want in a squad. So one leader, then let's say a squad of 5 people, and then another squad for 5 people. So altogether you have a squad of 10 people and let's say 2 slaves. So this is what the number 1 squad does. They do pretty much everything that the other squad does, but in here, because it's town shifts, half of them go to sleep, and then these guys wake up and they go do the same thing. And then there's some little things that are different. But if you want to, for example, create night and day routines where you just create one squad, this is the way to do it. So I think this means that if you attack one of these people during the night, then all of these characters will know about it and will come to their aid, being different from if you create separate squads that do shifts, then the other squad might not come to the aid of the other one unless they can sort of hear them or something. So assume telepathy pretty much between these 2 squads. And I made a mod and I don't think I uploaded it, but it's just for personal use, where I went through, let's just choose this one. I went through all of these and I created a separate, these are all different goals that you can choose, and I created a separate one for each and every one of these, because all of them are not listed in the goals. So there's some interesting stuff here that I did for one mod. I made it so that you start as a slave, and if you talk to this guy or listen to the guy and laugh at his jokes, he's going to help you out unlock your shackles, because your shackles in that mod were really strong. And that was something that I'd never seen before, but I really enjoyed playing with these ones too, so I made the mod for that purpose, that you can actually have a complete list of what you can and can't do in the game. And some of these I think don't work at all, and I would wish that the devs would just remove all the things that don't work, or then add a better written description of what it actually does. But this is just go home and go to bed. This is a little bit awkward since I'm not like I haven't played around with these too much, but I think I understand what it means. This means that the target is home and the bed, pretty much. When you get there, nothing happens. When you get to bed, nothing happens, and it's non-urgent, so it's not something that sort of has to happen there. There are other things that are more urgent than that. But that's basically the AI, the goals. And there's war campaigns here that I have not messed around with at all, but these are where if you want to create certain types of diplomatic things that happen, or war campaigns and how they end up. So it's again creating an intricate web of things, and I've never had a use for these really, because I haven't gone that big yet at this point. But this is like the next thing that I'm going to be working on. But I'll leave it at that, because you can just test it out and maybe teach me one day. Vendor lists. We're getting to the end of the list soon, and this video is already really long. I'll try and timestamp sort of what I'm talking about in the description. But vendor lists are relatively important if you want to spawn items into a building. And I think that's how it works, if I remember right. So let's say I'll try and find something that would make as a good example. So, well, library ruins loot. So you'll find damaged book and leather in library ruins, and it will, I think, spawn it there into the containers. So if you have chests and other things inside a building, then these are the things that will spawn into the containers. And I don't remember, I did it at some point where you had things on shelves and stuff, but I can't remember how it's done right now. But I'm sure you can figure it out once you get the basics sorted. But then there's just meat, actually. So let's say a person has this, a trader has this in their as their sort of vendor list. That means that they sell these things. I'll try and find if there's like well, trade goods is good. So this is you can add this list to a trader that you've created, and this is the items that they will have in their inventory. And I think don't quote me on this, I think it works in a way where the trader has them in his shop, which means that the trader will have them in his inventory somewhere, or they just, you know, appear in his bag or just out of thin air when you're trying to trade with them in their building. But I can't exactly remember now how it works, but basically this is where you sort out the loot inside buildings and towns and stuff like that. I'm sure you can figure it out by testing, and I'll try and get back to this if I remember better, because it's been such a long time since I last messed around with items in buildings. But yeah, let's screw it. Let's go to the next one. The color scheme is pretty much just colors. You can create a new item, and you can choose the colors here, and you can use this for various things. You can use this as well. Seems like with hair color, with the color of armor as well, and things like that, like faction color. You can add different color schemes to certain factions, so that everybody that's in the faction will have that colored sort of clothing. And most of the armors, I think, have a certain way of handling color. Like there's some sort of insignia or something on the armors that come out when you change the colors and stuff. Sometimes, but mostly it's just color. Research. This is where all the research is. And let's choose, what was a numbered one here? Tech level 2. So it's called Tech level 2, and you research it. A bigger and better desk would be to, you know, this is basically Tech table 2. And it requires that you know how to build a small house. And it enables the research bench. And it costs 6 books to research. So this is pretty self-explanatory as well. If you want to add new things, you can choose. Let's say you're adding. I saw a mod for hydroponic hemp. So let's see, hydroponic. Oh shit! It's actually here. Weird. I'm not sure if it was in the vanilla game when I've last been editing. But anyways, if you, let's say hydroponic hemp would not be a thing, you go to hydroponics, and for some reason it works like this. So it requires that you know hydroponics. You can do it, I think, the other way around as well, so that this will enable all of these things. It doesn't matter which way you do it, because the result is the same. It's a bit similar with, there's like, the NPC is not the NPC is not command, and then an NPC is command. It's the same thing, but just in reverse, so it doesn't matter which one you use. But this crap. Where'd it go? Oh, I got all these windows open. Let me just shut them down. So you research hydroponics. It costs 1 AI core, and you need a level 5 research desk to use it. It doesn't cost any money. It takes 6 in-game hours to research, apparently. And these are for maybe a future video, but these start making sense once you sort of know what you're doing. And that's pretty much it for research, I think. This is one of the most requested things, or the most sort of asked things, which is the simplest thing you can actually do. These ones you can ignore completely as well. So we're done with the list. So let's start with the simplest thing that you can do in the game or in the editor. So game starts. All the game starts are here. So let's do something concrete. After all this theory nonsense and blabbering on endlessly about numbers and shit, let's do something, like actually do something. So I want a new game start. I want to start off as well, we'll see. We'll figure out what we can do. So we add new item. It creates a new game start here. So this is already a game start, but you will get errors in game sometimes if you don't give enough information, or you give the wrong type of information. But let's go through everything. Everything. We'll just do something that includes all of this to give you a concrete example of what I've been talking about for, I think, 30 minutes, maybe more. So we'll start off with the name of the game start. So this is Lawrence of the desert. Right. And then the description. If you click this little box here, you can write down, or you can see what you're writing down, because this is pretty limited. So here is a guy who lives in the desert and actually likes it. Okay. That's the description. I don't think you need anything more than that. It sort of tells you everything you need to know. This is totally optional. You can lie if you want to. You can say life is easy as Lawrence, which is a total lie. $100. I just went into my savings, which was $100, and now I have around $70, 70 euros. So that's more, let's be honest there. And then the style of gameplay, this is all descriptive. It has nothing to do with anything pretty much. It's just to give information to the player. Style is I don't know. Play style is don't eat sand. Yeah. So here is the start position. So this is for basically, let me just check that I'm still recording. Good, thank God, because sometimes I just forget to click record or something. For start position, true or false? We say false because these coordinates are a little bit tricky, but this is where you can choose a location for the start of the game in the map. But I should, or somebody should really do a map where these coordinates are like every thousand whatever pixel, or how do they count it? Because it's not meters, definitely. But you would start at the map is in your imagination in front of you right here, and then you start from X position 4000, and then Z position. For some reason it's Z. Yeah, I guess it's Z if you're looking at it from the side, and then Z 4000, and it's somewhere around, I guess like around, if the map is this square, it's somewhere around here. I don't know, but it's going to be false anyways because it's awkward. The way you do it is you choose a town from here, and this is usually where all the options are. This is just a list of, well, not just a list, but it's a list of separate things, and then you find these other things in this pop-up menu or pop-down menu from here. So we choose a town, and we want to start in the desert. And what town is in the desert? I don't remember. The ports are in the desert. Port North. And these towns don't exist yet because they're not destroyed. They're not overridden. So you have to choose a town that actually exists, and it's going to be this one. So we're going to start in the Port North. And you can write numbers here, but it does nothing because there's no question here. It's not like Port North, yes or no, or more Port North. There's nothing like that. Then the next thing we're going to do is faction relations. So we hate, who do we hate more than anything? We hate sand ninjas. We hate them. Hate them so much. But we love United Cities. Sounds a little bit forced, but we love them. This is not just for show, a fear of being enslaved. We actually do love them. So this is the starting relations with factions. Otherwise, it's pretty much going to be default. So you're going to be enemies with the cannibals because they hate you. They hate everybody. But you can do different things from here. Research. This is tricky because if you add something, it will remove the default research tree. So it's best not to add anything here unless you want a game through or a playthrough, which I did for cannibals. The cannibals can only use their own buildings and not nobody else's buildings from the start. So you should add your research through here and add it as a blueprint somewhere. Or otherwise you're gonna remove all the basic research that the game has for the player when it starts, so ignore that. Force race, you can force the race of the character, and I will force him to be, and this is a list of all the races, I will force him to be a don't, first off, don't add cannibal and stuff because it might mess things up, or it will mess things up. You need to do a little bit more work to get cannibals to be playable, but we can do that as well at some point. But first we'll just make him Greenlander because that's the safest option. So he's going to be a Greenlander. Now this is where I mentioned before I started at the wrong end, so now I need to create a squad. And to create a squad, to have a functioning squad, I need characters. So I will start with a character, and I will right click here and I will call him Lawrence. Many of these things are irrelevant just due to what the character is like, or is it an NPC or is it a player character? Is it well, slave, not slave, and dumb. Right, okay, so this is just a... Sometimes the things in the editor are as funny as in Kenshi, because this means that it won't it won't sort of join in conversations. So it doesn't mean that it's actually dumb. But this is irrelevant as a player character, but you can choose whether this character will assign a bounty if you do something wrong. And here is how much the bounty will be, but we're a player character, so we don't need any of this. Here is where you first go into the game, you create your character's appearance, you save it, and then you choose the file location from over here. And for our mod, I don't know why this is in the documents. Oh, I guess it's just me writing down stuff. So you have to create let me actually show you this. I don't have any secrets or anything, I don't think. But I don't remember where I installed Kenshi because I have 2 drives now. But basically, you need to create a folder inside the mod folder, and then copy the body file in there from the main game file. And I'll probably show you that as well. If it sounds complicated, it's not. You just need to drag the file into the exact same named folder that is in the mod folder, because that way the game checks the mod folders first for information. Well, either way, whatever it does, it reads the mod folders over the game folder. So if you make changes in the mod folder, it will read those instead of the game folder. So that means that you can create bodies and whatever, change things, and then it will only read the mod folder and not the original files. And if that doesn't make any sense to you, if you're not that well versed in like computer stuff, don't just totally ignore it. It makes not a single bit of difference. Faction importance, the maximum number is 5, I think, so I'm pretty important. Or I'm pretty important. Lawrence is, which is me. I just revealed that it's me. The mesh is, let me check if it doesn't give me the mesh file, but it's for, man, yeah, let's just ignore that. Leave it blank. Armor grade. So this is what grade of armor he's wearing. My clothes are pretty standard to cheap. So let's make it cheap, and the chance of upgrading to standard is 50%. So I have a 50% chance of getting a little bit better armor. So this is for randomizing. My combat stats, I'll leave all of this, I'll actually make everything 0, not 90, 0, because these are just generally if you want to just create a number without creating different stats for everybody. This is where you do it. For some unimportant people, like just basic civilians or something like that, you don't need to go through the trouble of creating stats over here and then giving it to people. You can just add them here, but I'll just leave everything 0 because we're going to do the stats as well. Money, amount of physical money item, which is the cats thing. I don't need those. And amount of money I have, I think we just went through where the money was set. But I think this is for also for the NPCs. So it actually has nothing to do with anything, since we're creating a game start, it separately does that. Yeah, there we go. So this is unimportant to player character. If you create an NPC with, let's say they have 10,000 cats, then they will be able to buy things with their money. And also if they're a trader, that's the amount of money they have. Maximum amount of money they have when you go to their shop and sell things, and they will give you money. That's the minimum amount. And the daily wages I get, I'm not exactly sure what that does. Maybe it's a remnant of something, or then it's like an increase of money per day for this person, but I really don't know. It could be, maybe, possibly, it could be related to if you hire like a bodyguard, but I think that's done separately or in a different way as well. So this is to choose if an NPC is a trader or not. So this has nothing to do with the player characters again, but if I'd set it to true, it says here that you must have like a large backpack or a shop where the items in the vendor list that we talked about before will appear. And the NPC type, this also has nothing to do with your player character, I don't think. It could have, because I actually haven't tested this out ever, but this is also one of those limiting factors that you can do where a certain person will say something to another type of person. So let's say we're an adventurer, and if this works in a dialogue, you can add that another person will say a certain thing to us because we are an adventurer. If we're not an adventurer, then they will say a different thing, or they will say nothing at all. So this is something to limit the dialogue with, for me personally. So, and the AI, I think in the dialogue, there are some default vanilla things that the NPCs will say to certain types of characters, but that's basically what this does. This doesn't really change. This doesn't change any stats, or it doesn't change anything. It's just basically so that the game knows what type of person that person is. Female chance. There's no chance I'm a woman. Am I named? No, because I already have a name, and I don't need to be randomly named again. My name is perfectly fine. Am I shaved? Yes. Actually, my face is not. I'm growing a winter beard, but then my head is. I'm not a slave to anything but my love of chocolate. I'm pretty unique. This just means that if I die, I die. But for a player character, it doesn't make a difference. But for NPCs, it makes a huge difference. So if you set, let's say you have a squad with 10 guards in it, and you set that you have the 10 same characters there, just duplicated, and you set this as true, only one of them will spawn. If you have these, if you I tried this once to create a random spawn where I wanted this person to be randomly spawned across the map, and I tried to give the same character different spawning locations and set them to unique so that they would only spawn in a place once, but it's not random. It appears that they spawn in the first place that you go to where they're supposed to spawn, if that makes sense. But this is for characters that are truly unique, and like leaders and things like that. People that have actual names and stuff, and then when they die, they're gone forever unless you import with the dead NPCs off. But I'll just put it to true, but it doesn't make a difference since I'm a player character right now. Where's a uniform? No. And this means that if you try to sneak into a town using not camouflage, what's it called? I can't find the word right now. But if you use disguise, there we go. That's the word. You can disguise as me, but it doesn't. I'm not wearing a uniform. It implicates you to a faction. So if you steal the Holy Nation armor, the full set, and you have good sneaking, you can sneak into places. But this has nothing to do with me, and you can leave it as false for like civilians and things like that. But then if you have actual guards, like armed guards for a faction, then it's good to set it to true so that you can actually sneak into town using that. But alright, we're almost there. Oh, and here we go again. So I need to create AI goals. I need to do all this kind of stuff. You don't have to do it. This is for NPCs only. You can use some AI goals. I've used it mostly for testing to see what happens if I set a certain AI package to NPCs, and you can, like, it's really annoying. Like, you can set your own character to just walk, and if you try and stop, it'll always start walking to a certain direction. But it's a good way to test stuff, AI, if you just give yourself some AI goals. But this is for NPCs. Animation files not needed. Is for animations. Announcement dialogue. I haven't seen it really work, and there are other ways of doing it, like announcement, just saying random shit. Backpack. I'll give myself a backpack. So this is all the stuff, all the backpacks in the game. I'll give myself one of them, and this is the chance, 100% chance of me having it. Blueprints. You can add certain blueprints to the character, either an NPC or yourself if you want to. Bounty, I could add, let's say I have a bounty with the Holy Nation. I think, let's see what it does, because usually it gives you like a bleep if you're doing something wrong. So I'll just give myself, I'm like really important. So 10,000 bounty. I'm not sure this number means anything, but we'll figure it out when I start. Yeah, now it made the bleep, so yeah, so the number doesn't make any difference there. It's just a bounty. I don't know how much it is. We'll check it out. Then we go to clothing, and I'll just give myself some armored rags, skirt. And you can hold Control or Shift and choose many of them, which is good. Those are fine. Then I'll click it again. This is just what? Oh, no. Remove from list. That's how you got to do it. Or click it and press delete. What is this? Did I just create armor for some reason? Rag. Armored rag, skirt. And why is it colored? What did I just do? Okay, so I have no idea what's going on right now. It's bugging out. I'll report this at some point. But we're just going to continue. Usually you shouldn't continue, because if you get an error like that, it means that all the things that you're going to do later on might not work. But this is already a little bit messed up. Welcome to the editor. This is what it does. Let's do it one at a time then. Armor drag skirt. Armor drags. And I'll remove that. Oh, and you can also replace with a copy, which is really, really useful. Many things, many seconds and minutes are saved using that. I'll just give myself some boots, drifter boots, and now that's enough clothing for me. Then the color. I can choose a color scheme for the character, and I think this is a good way of doing it without affecting the whole faction that you're in. I'm not sure if it works because I've never tried it, but let's try it out. Let's do nice black. Crossbows. I'll give myself a toothpick. But as you can see, this is pretty self-explanatory. Death items are things that it's bugged out for humanoids. This is pretty much for animals, so it's like when an animal not dies but is knocked out, you can like take their flesh and then they die when you take it. With humans, they always carry this item, and it doesn't even kill them, so it's sort of bugged out, and it sucks because it's a really good it would have been really good to have. Death triggers. So this is if I die, or if an NPC would die, this is the trigger that would happen, and these are the war campaigns. But since I'm just a dude, it doesn't matter. No one's gonna care if I die. Dialogue. Here you can add, as it says, extra player talk to me events added, and we'll go into that in a moment. But this is not the dialogue pack, but it's a single dialogue that you give to an NPC that will initiate if you talk to them. Here's a dialogue package for NPCs, and here's a dialogue package for the player. So let's see if there's a player, just like a basic, I think it's like a human, NPC basic human. I don't know if this is, this just has all the basic stuff in it. I think, did it inherit something? Yeah, imprisoned and this stuff. So this is the dialogue package thing. We'll go into that in a moment. But I'll just add this so that my character will respond in a normal human way. My faction, I don't need to set it because the game sets it, and if I try to add myself into another faction, it doesn't work. So you can only, a player character can only be in the nameless faction, which can be interesting to play around with, but you'll always be in the player faction. There's no way to change that. Imprisonment triggers. If I get imprisoned, things will happen, but it's for NPCs only. I'm not even sure if it works. I doubt that it works for player characters, but this is for what happens if you are imprisoned, or if the character is imprisoned. So then inventory is just like basic stuff. Usually it's good to give first aid, like standard. Basic, which one is the, I think basic, yeah, is like the smallest one. So I'll give myself 3 of those. Basic first aid kit, 3 of them. Personality, I don't think it makes a difference. We went through these a little bit, but I don't think it does make a difference with a player character. I think I tried to do that, I tried to test it out to limit dialogue, but it didn't work, so we'll skip that. But you can give the personality to the characters. The race is already in the start, and I think, yeah, specify race will override the body file, and this might also override this forced race thing. So I'll just leave it blank, but this is where you can choose race, and you can choose multiple, and then it will select one of them. If you do an NPC, it will be one of the races. If you set no race, it's going to be, I think, any race. But yeah, and it will actually include skeletons as well, if I remember right. So robot limbs. Um, I think this works in a way where you can either give the character some robotic limbs in their inventory, maybe. I'm not sure how it works these days because it's been a long time since I've modded something like this, but I remember you had to do it when the robotic limbs were new. You had to first like damage your leg so that it gets cut off or is already cut off, and then when you add robotic limbs into your inventory, let's say you cut both of your legs off from using the starting health, and then you add the robot limbs, then you will have robotic legs when you start. But I don't have any robotic legs, so that's good. The schedule, events we do during the day. So this is also something that I haven't messed around with because it's usually with the AI, but since we're the player character, we can skip that too. Shopping, this is what they buy. It's pretty well actually explained over here, but since we are the player character, we don't go. If we go shopping, we choose what we shop. But this is really good to make, like, let's say a random person who maybe spawns very rarely and then walks into your town or a town and then buys something really expensive. Sometimes something like that. You can use it for anything. All right, so this is the starting health, and you will choose your body part, and then you will choose how much health you have. So if you put your left and foreleg and leg, I'm not sure there is a foreleg really. It might add damage just to the leg part, and then there's like 2 spots for some reason, maybe for something they were intending to do, but mostly I just use the legs because that's how it works pretty much, and I've never used these. But you can cut your own legs off if you want to, or cut legs off of your created characters, but we're not gonna mess with that. So yeah, here's the stats. So let's open up the stats menu, and you usually have like a few windows open when you're working on something, and it's just good to keep them here so you keep track of what you're doing. But we're gonna add a new set of stats, and it's gonna be Lawrence's stats. Dexterity, I do a little bit of yoga. Strength, I don't know. People say I'm strong, but I don't feel I am. I'm definitely not tough. My attack is around 3 maybe, but I'm very defensive. Now I've dodged a few bullets unarmed. I have a punching bag, so that I've increased it to 5 from like 0. Athletics, I can run a mile or 2. I haven't swam in years. Engineering, I don't know. Does carpentry like count? Good 30. Medic, relatively alright. Robotics, no idea what's going on. Science, yeah boy. Assassin, nah. Lockpicking, I actually did some lockpicking, but I wasn't really good at it. I was like relatively good at it. So 35. Stealth, used to have to sneak around in the house. I'm pretty good with that. Thievery, if I've ever stolen anything, I've been really brash about it. Like just taking it, and everybody sees I take it. Armorsmith, no. Bowsmith, terrible cook. I can't farm. I hate manual labor, like boring shit. No, I can't do weapons. Though I can do carpentry, so maybe 5. I think there isn't like an axe or anything. Well, I use the chop wood. Hacker. There we go. Everything else, maybe poles a little bit. Alright, so these are my stats. And they're now added to the list, and now I can go back here and click on stats and find myself, and there we go. Those are going to be my stats when I start the game. Unique replacement spawn. This is also for NPCs. So if a person dies, a unique person dies, then who will replace them? So it can be like second in command or something like that. It's a pretty nice thing to do. It adds spice to the level, not the weapon level. Adds spice to the game. So the weapon level is unknown. We don't know where my weapons came from, and we don't even know what weapons I'm going to be having. So we are going to add me just a staff. So the staff will be 0 is hip, 1 is on the back. So if I put 0 here, it's still going to be on my back because I can't. You can't wear a staff on your hip because it's too big. And then vendors is for if the dude is a shopkeeper, which we are not. Then we can add the items that he has in his backpack or in his shop, as we learned from checking out this cool stuff here or somewhere else. Alright, so we're done with the character now. Now we need the squad. So even though there's only one person in the new game start, you still need a squad. Even though there's even if there is one person that you want to add to the game, they still need a squad. So we'll go over here and click open the factions tab, because that's where the squads live. And we're gonna start from the very beginning. So we'll add a new item, and we're gonna call it Lawrence Squad. Usually it's good to write down some information of what you're doing, so that when you look at the window you'll remember what it is that you're working on. So we'll start with this list again. Do I smell blood? I smell it, but not like an animal. This is for NPCs. Do they approach towns? So you don't want certain squads approaching towns. You want them to live in the outskirts and never come to towns. I think like maybe fogmen shouldn't come to town. I think they would know that they wouldn't attack like well-armed and trained guards. But maybe actually let's check it out. There's a learning experience. So let's find fogmen. Fog raid. Might be fog raid. Fog hive ruins. Fog narrative. Let's try this one. AI packages. Cannibal retreat. Cannibals at home. Yeah, there we go. Approaches towns. So I think they should not approach towns. Like when you reach the town area, the guards are so good that they just keep killing them, and it sort of destroys the immersion a little bit, and the guards they go out of their way to run out the gates and kill all the cannibals they can find. I think it would be better if they didn't approach towns. So that's what we'll do. No, they won't. There we go. We can do whatever we want. This is our mod, and I ain't gonna let anybody tell us what to do. Right, the squad. That's what we're doing. Initial door state, again for NPCs and stuff. If they live in a house, their door will be closed or opened or locked or broken as well. Locked is good, but then sometimes the NPCs will just walk out, like briefly just knock on the door and then open it and just leave it like that sometimes, or at least it used to be like that. So for this choose from list, we need to go here. So random characters, choose from list. If you want a squad that has just random characters, and you can do this for your starting squad as well. You can choose all of this if you want to, and then add it, add them to the over here. Let's just add a few just for there. Let's do no armor king. Let's just do cannibal. No, we want some just like normal people. Drifter, and I'll do it one at a time because for some reason it bugged out. Bodyguard, whatever. So now, number of random characters. Let's say there's just one. The maximum number of the minimum number and the maximum number. So it's one for both. We just want either one of these to be chosen as the character, except we don't. But this is how you do it. Then we go to content, gear, artifacts, base value. I need to check this out a little bit. The base value of gear artifacts the squad can get. Town needs to also have a max artifact value set for this squad to get anything. Right, so these artifacts are just like random shit. So yeah, I don't know enough, so I won't go into that, but I've never used it, so. This is if the person is malnourished. It's good for like challenging game starts. I'm actually really well fed right now. I've eaten the whole day. I've had chocolate and pizza, everything, so I'm not malnourished right now. If we have animals, their random age is from 0 to 1, everything in between. But we're not going to have animals. Don't multiply. This is actually good to keep on most of the time for NPC squads, because that means that the slider will affect them, so your squad won't just be really small if somebody maxes out the thing. This is good for if you want your characters, like NPC characters, to just walk around and not always seem like they're in a rush. So just put them to walk. They will start running if they're attacked and stuff, but then the rest of the time they're just going to walk. Roaming squad, it's not too complicated, but we'll skip that for now. And this means that the person will sell their home. So like civilians in a town, they might sell their house and just get the fuck out. This is if you want to use their beds, how much it costs, but for me it doesn't matter. It's player character. Building designation. This is one way of setting the building for the NPCs, and I think you I can't remember if you have to do it or not in addition to this, but I'd say maybe. But yeah, it's been a while since I worked on this, but I think this works. It's mostly for like if you're in a bar or barrack or an HQ, residential small. But if none of the these tags really explain what the characters where they're going to spawn into, it doesn't really matter. So the building name is that the name of the building, and the interior layout, which we talked about briefly before, that you can do in the in-game editor, is do an interior, then save it by a name. This will override that name, and this we already went through briefly before. And this means that if the building is ruined, or not like in the hub, there's a lot of ruined buildings. Public beds, false, means that you can't sleep on them. The building is that this squad is in is public by day and then not during the night, and regenerates over time. If you kill a few civilians, like you have a family living, you kill half of them, then they will regenerate after a certain amount of time, which I'm not sure what time it is, but they will regenerate. Price multiplier, I've never used this, but yeah. Do they buy illegal things? So you can set like an illegal trader in a town where there are illegal things. Buy stolen things for like Thieves Guild and stuff like that, or just, random people will just buy stuff. This is for their crossbow level. I don't think it might actually, yeah, it might actually have something to do with the players, because this is new for me since I've last been editing. But I'll put it to cheap. I'm not a trader, but this is for NPCs as well. Robotics level cheap. I don't have any of them, but if I did, you can choose the level there. Vendor money, how much they have actually is here, and not in the money for the character. I guess the character money is then for buying, and this is for the vendor separately. Right. So yeah, maximum items. So you might have a really long list of items, and you might have an excessive amount of them, sort of the of them in the where is it now? I can't remember. The effects? No, totally not it. This is what happens when you're like trade culture. There we go. Yeah. So you have no, not trade culture. It is not trade culture. I repeat, it is not trade culture. It is something. The vendor list. There we go. That's it. You might have more items on the list that will actually appear, so it randomizes a little bit. And I like if you have a vendor, I think once a day is a bit too much. I know some people think it's too little, but the way I like to play it is that a vendor doesn't refresh every day. Maybe like 3 days or something. That means that you can start a caravan and roam around the map and then come back and stuff and sell things. It's actually really fun to do. But for now, this has nothing to do with actually what we're doing right now. So let's get back to business. Since this is just the player thing, we don't need the AI packages. We're not going to have animals. We're not going to add. Here's where you add the buildings and building dislikes that you can sort of direct in which building something will spawn into. We're not going to add the choose from list random characters. No dialogue for the animals. No dialogue for the leader. Not the squad. The faction is irrelevant because we're always going to be nameless, which is the not nameless as in it doesn't have a name, but nameless, the faction that you always start with, and you can rename it. Generation info, extra info if you want a more randomized squad, right? Not sure how that works exactly. Housemates is NPCs live in the same building. If you want more squads to be in the same building, like let's say 3 different squads of guards and then maybe one leader, they can all live in the same place. And this is where we add me or this one since I'm alone, but add leader and find myself here, and there we go. There's only one of me. Then a nest is for if I want to spawn in, if I'd be an animal, I'd spawn in a nest. Personality for now doesn't matter. Prisoners, I don't. Any prisoners will be spawned in cages, right? Yeah. So this is either way, it's irrelevant, but you can add prisoners, and prisoners are different from slaves. Race overrides, so this overrides, forces all the characters to be this race, so that's good info as well. But we don't need that because we're already forced in the other over here. So you can do it either way. We have no slaves, and having slaves, actually we're going to test it out right now. It's not going to work. They will most likely just be ours. But we are going to add slaves. Holy slaves, they might have weird AI and they might bug out. So they're just normal. Slaves 1 to 3, there we go. Alright, we're just going to test it out, but it's probably they'll just be a part of my squad. Perhaps, we'll see how it works. Special items, let's see what they are. So these are just items that are a little bit special from just basic items. And I think it must give them to the leader, I guess. Special map items, no need for that. We're not going to add any, I don't have any friends. Vendors, no. And world state, right. This is actually really important in some situations where, let's say you destroy a faction completely. So you don't want their squads to spawn around their old territory anymore because they're gone. So you can just add this world, the same world state that destroys the town, add it to the squads, so they stop spawning around, stop spawning completely. So this means you can totally wipe out a faction with like change the world forever, not having any holy nation people anywhere anymore ever. Change them into beak things or whatever. But this is it, pretty much. We're done. We went through, so first you have game start, that has the squad, that has the character. And oh yeah. Right, now we need to add the squad here to the game start. So let's back to the beginning so it won't get too confusing. We're at the game starts now here. And we need to add everything we just did. What am I doing? I'm getting tired, goddammit. Lawrence squad. There we go. And that's it for the game start. So we went through a lot of things. A lot of things that had directly something to do with creating a new game start, but also things that had to do with NPCs. So now we're going to do one more thing so that we can get the AI and dialogue. And this video is really, really long, but you can watch it in parts. That's fine. And I'll try and timestamp stuff a little bit, but I'm sure there's a lot of little bits of pieces maybe that you haven't heard of before, and if you're totally new, you should watch other videos as well, because everybody has different ways of teaching things and showing what they've done and stuff. But now we're going to add an NPC to Port North, and we're gonna give him AI and dialogue. So first off, we're just gonna start with let's start with the stats. So we haven't even named the dude yet, so maybe this is not the best route to do, but I'll just do let's make him a bum. Bum stats. So he's really quick on his feet. He's not that strong, but he's really tough. Years of living on the streets. He's really offensive. But he doesn't defend at all. He just goes, he doesn't dodge. And unarmed is his thing. He's really athletic, and well, he drinks a lot. He can't swim. There's no reason. He's not an engineer. He must know some tricks of the trade of medicine. Maybe a little bit of science of doing potions or something. Thievery, definitely. He does that every now and then. Cooking, he knows how to cook anything. He's eaten everything except sand. Farming, he doesn't do laboring because otherwise he wouldn't be a bum, maybe. Maybe that's offensive to say, but it's just a joke. No weapons, he doesn't need weapons. That's what he is. Alright, then characters, we're going to add a new item. A beach bum, because he lives in the sandy north. He doesn't assign bounties for the faction. We would be nice to give him a body, but we're not going to do it. And we're not going to make him dumb. Faction importance is definitely 1, or even less than that. Gear is prototype at best. Combat stats, we already did that. We can randomize the stats a little bit. Let's give it 5 points. So it's 5 points minus or plus from the stats that we made. Money, 0. He's a bandit. He's not a traitor. Female chance 50-50, although usually see that many female bums. 20% sounds good. Named, yes, we'll give him some random name. No, actually, no, we won't. Just so that we can find. No, we don't. We'll name him, and I'll show you a nice trick to what I use to find characters that I'm testing out, like that they randomly spawn around. I'll show it to you in a moment. Shaved, yeah, why not? They're not a slave to anything, not even chocolate. They're unique, and they don't wear any bum kind of uniform. Alright, so the next thing in line is the AI. So let's give him a good AI package. So we'll create a totally new one, and it's bum AI pack. That's going to bother me later. There we go. So now we're going to give him goals. He's the leader of his own. He's the only person in his squad, so that automatically makes him the leader of his little squad. Doesn't make him the leader of anything else. So we'll leave that over there to the side as well and create, or maybe just choose. Yeah, let's just choose the goals. I don't want to go into creation. It's annoying. So what does he do? What does a bum do? So he attacks enemies definitely, but he doesn't leave town, and he does that 24 hours a day. Maybe he has a couple of hours in the morning. He starts fighting at 6 and goes to bed. Well, he doesn't have a bed. He just relaxes. At midnight he doesn't care. Then he will while partying, I think, is just attacking everything. He's definitely not staying inside. He's not doing anything. Self-preservation. Run away. He's not running away. Runaway is actually, I was testing, just a brief story that's very uninteresting, but I was testing AI for animals where, because I did a hunting mod, and then I wanted animals to actually run away when you attack them, like animals that are herbivores and stuff, and it actually worked pretty nicely. It was pretty good, because it means that you have to sort of chase animals around, and then their group spreads out and stuff. So it's not like you just shoot a herbivore that can't fight, and then they come to you to die. But, yeah, so raise villages. Patrol hometown. So they patrol the hometown all night long, baby. Then they will. Is there like a get out of a cage? Escape. That's what they'll do if they're in a cage. I'll give it a 10 because we're not going to add that many. We're just going to, because it's sort of defeating the point of a tutorial when I'm just doing really boring shit. But this is what it is, pretty much. Alright, so something funny. What is throne sitting? Take intruders throw out of town gates. That might be funny, but it's really rare to have something like that. So I guess we'll just leave it at that. And I'm not going to give him any medic or first aid kits or anything, but I think this is enough to give you the idea of what you can do with this. You know, he gets out of bed when in trouble, which means that if I put him into bed and attack him, he's going to get out. But he's just going to be walking around town pretty much. And that's it. And he doesn't need to inherit anything because this is just a test. So yeah, this is good. Real good. So AI goals. I think I need to add an AI package. This is the character. So yeah, I need to add it to you can add separate goals for a character, but I'll add it in the squad. And I didn't create the squad yet, I don't think. No. So we'll create the squad now too. Bum squad. Bum squad sounds really weird. Alright, so AI packages, the one that we just did. And patrol approaches towns. Well, he's in town, so yeah. No random. Malnourished, definitely. He's walking around. And he doesn't have a building designation. And the good way to spawn people into a town that you don't want them to, or don't need them to have buildings, is just to add them as bar squads, and we'll go into that in a moment. But there's residents and then there's bar squads, and the bar squads are just people who hang around in town, and you know, basically in bars, and then there's people who own and live in buildings. He doesn't have any, but let's just be cool if he had like a robotic leg. Let's give him a robotic leg. Bender, no. Regenerates. Yeah, none of this is applicable over here. Then we'll add the things that we've already made, and then we'll go to the dialogue. So that's the leader. Leader AI package. Oh no, he needs clothes. So sorry, I'm doing this a little bit strangely, but it's a little bit of window hopping, but this is still the character, and we need to give him some clothes, and they're just going to be rag, loin cloth. Good enough. He needs nothing else. And personality is not honorable, definitely. Let's check what it actually means. Treacherous, smart, dumb. Actually, let's make a new one, just real quick. What was I doing? I'm getting really tired. Personalities. When you're looking for something and you can't. Totally, like, it's right here somewhere. Character. It has to be. There we go. Jeez. Alright, new item. Bum. Persona. So this is what they always have. They're always treacherous. Not all bums are treacherous. Please don't get me wrong, but this one is always. He's brave because he's drunk. He's maniacal, and again, these have nothing to do with. This will not give him any traits. These are just limiting factors, but it's always good to do this before you do the dialogue, because then you sort of have a baseline of how other people will treat him as well. And tags that are never, you don't have to add them separately, I don't think, because it's not going to add. Let's say if you, yeah, it's pretty weird, because I don't think it just adds random personality traits to it, but whatever. There we go. Personality, race doesn't matter, though it does. I don't want it to be a skeleton, because let's make him a Greenlander as well. Fellow fellow race of mine. No weapons. Stats. There we go. Starting health. So yeah, he needs a robotic leg. Right leg. is -100. And then robot limbs, right leg. These arms, okay, it's like a stealth leg, I guess. So now, what are the values here? Value, quality, relative chance of multiple items are listed for the... Oh, right, okay. Alright, so yeah, that's good enough. So he should now have a robotic right leg, hopefully. Inventory, he doesn't have anything. His faction, I guess he's like a drifter. And now we're going to go into the dialogues. So, yeah, this is pretty important stuff. Let me just check how long we've been recording. 2 hours just went. Alright, good. Whatever. Dialogue. So first we'll create a package for him. Bum dia pack. Let me put the underscore there. Right. So he doesn't need to inherit anything for now because it's just a test character, but maybe, you know, basic baseline of human emotion when he gets tortured and stuff like that. That's something to inherit from. So then you don't need to worry about it for every single character. You can just create a baseline for humanity and then work your way through there. You add dialogue to each of these, and I don't think most of these actually, or well, I can't say most of them don't work, but many of them don't work. This one, I don't think it has any. I don't think it works. It's like a remnant, possibly, probably. But these are all what happens to initiate a dialogue. So this first one is pretty simple. So the dialogue, open a dialogue package, create a new one, and the first one is player talk to me, and that means that this dialogue will not initiate unless you, the player, talk to the bum. And from here you can add ready-made dialogues, and from here you can add a new one. The thing is that not all the options will be here available for you if you add a new one and start editing it here. So it's pretty important to keep this open and then go to the dialogues here and start creating the dialogues separately here, and then add them so that you can have all the effects that you want. So we'll try and try out a few effects. Let's call this bum die. Let's make him. Yeah. So here's the trick: how to find characters that you're testing out in towns that just like roam around. So die. Let's put it shout. So this is going to add another hour to this video, but at least I'm being very thorough. So here's the dialogue. This is where the dialogue happens. So you add a line, and then you add a line, and a line, and a line, and then you can add multiple branches from one line. So let's just do lines. So here's the first one. You write something down. This is what let's say the bum says. Then you respond. Then the bum responds. And then you respond in 2 different ways. And then from these 2 different branches, the conversation goes on. And you can hold... let me just delete the branch and start again. Oh my god, I broke it. So there we go. So I'll add some text to it. I'll just say 2.1 and add a line there. 2.2. I'll just add one more in case I need it. 2.3. And then add a line here, here, and here. So this is basically the branch of line. I know it doesn't make much sense right now, but I'm just gonna test one thing. If I say the next one is 3, this one is 4, this one is 5. So the bum says 1. Then this is not going to happen yet. It's not this simple, quite this simple, but it is simple. So this is what I want the player to be able to respond. And then if I add that over there and hold shift and drag, then yeah, so just to I did this to remind myself. So if you want to loop a sort of conversation, you can shift and drag the same response from another branch over to there. Let's say that let's actually do something authentic so you know exactly what I mean, so it's not that complicated. So here he says, wanna talk? Here the player says, yes. Here the player says, it depends. And here the player says, no. And here the bum says, alrighty then. Here he says, great. Okay. Oops. Okay. Now listen. And he goes on a tirade. Goes on a tirade. And the player says, thank you for this interesting insight into your personal, very personal matters. And the bum says, no problem. Alright. So here we're going to add a yes on what? And we can say whether it's something interesting you want to say. And here it is. Of course it is. And alright. Let's start from the very beginning. I think you can see what's happening here. The dialogue is here, and the reason that it is here is that you can add options to it. But I've noticed that if you add certain limitations here or options here, it sometimes bugs out. So you want to add them to the very first line. So let's start off with some conditions. And this was supposed to be the shout thing. Now this is actually, sorry for jumping around a little bit. I'll do the shouty bit later. This is player dialogue 1. Just number them or name them, but it's usually good to have a number there, because if you have multiple dialogues in a certain order, you should probably give it information and then a number so that you sort of know where you're going, because sometimes it can get a little bit confusing. So over here, let's start with this one. This is the simplest window here. So the speaker is me, and me always is the person who has the dialogue. So me does not mean me as in the player or the maker of this mod. Me means the character who has this dialogue, which in this case is the beach bum. So he says it. The target type, there's no special target type for this dialogue, and you don't want to give it any because it might bug out and you might not be able to talk to them. The score bonus, I thought they removed this, and I thought they removed this, and I thought they removed this as well. And maybe they've brought it back because a lot of mods were sort of broken because of it, but we're not going to use these. We're just going to leave them as is. If it works, this means that it's a chance that this person will have the dialogue. And this is the chance that the person will use the dialogue. So you can use this in let's say you branch out into 3 different tirades here. Then you can give it a chance of maybe not saying, maybe he says something actually important. Let's just do that. Just for a show. Says something actually important and insightful. About life in general. So you can do it like you can give it a chance that this dialogue doesn't actually because the old way was that it doesn't matter in what order you add these in. You could always add a score bonus, which means that the higher the number this line has compared to this line, the game will read the highest number first. So let's, if it works, then you can use this. So we'll add a 5 here and leave a 0 here. So the dialogue starts and it goes all the way here, and then the game chooses the highest number first from these two, because they are direct branches from this one. So since this is 0, the game will read this first, but then if I add that it's temporary, there's like a 5%, there's a 5% chance he actually says something important and insightful. If this doesn't happen, which is very likely that it doesn't, he will just go on a tirade. But we're not going to leave this here, but I hope you understand what happens here. So 2 branches. Which one goes first? The one with the higher bonus. So we're just going to delete that little bit out of it. But yeah, that's how that used to work, and maybe still does. I don't know. The next one is we're here. Yeah. So me as the talker, the score bonus was that. The repetition limit is that this conversation will only happen. This will happen every time you talk to him. This will happen every 2 hours minimum, or it becomes available after 2 hours. It becomes available after 6 hours, 48, 1 week, once only, and then very short. That's like 20 minutes in-game time. So 2 hours in-game time, and you can talk to him again. I think 2 hours. He's had enough to drink. After 2 hours, he forgets that he's already talked to you, and then you talk to him again. These will leave it 100%, and here is actually, you can add different things that somebody says. So the game will choose randomly. You can add as many as you want. The game will choose randomly between these two. So want to talk, and then you just click somewhere else and it always adds a line. Would you like to converse with me? So the game will choose one of these things that the bum says, and here it shows you there's 3 different sort of variations. So this means that you can add a lot of different sort of variety to dialogue that many characters in the game have, so that it sort of stays fresh. So yeah, this is pretty much that window. So let's do us next. So this one is speaker target. So target is always the other one. So I'll just put it to target if player. That limits it, but it's already limited because it's in the player talk to me category, but targetive player and targetive player. So this is the speaker, which is us. And then we'll add, since the dialogue, this dialogue is pretty much finished right now, we'll just add us to all the lines that we're going to say. And I left this empty. Actually, I shouldn't have. Maybe I'll delete that, because here he says, of course it is. He answers the question of what it depends on, and of course he has something important to say. So we'll just shift drag this here, and when it's grayed out like that, it carries on from there. It jumps over here pretty much, and then the conversation's over. The last thing here, just when it comes to the dialogue, is that this last line will always be set out in game. And I think many times when you add certain effects in dialogue, which I'll show you in a moment, it's always good to have like the last thing happen in game and the effect be on that, so that the effect will actually happen, like let's say an exchange of money or something like that, which I'll show you in a moment. So now we're going to add some limiting factors to this. So the bum will not, let's say if the bum is shackled, then he will not want to talk. I don't know why he wouldn't want to talk if he was shackled. Let's find something else. If he is indoors, if the bum is indoors, this conversation will never happen. So the conditions are here. So me, and you can add a lot of them, as many as you want. So me, the bum, is indoors, and then you go to the Boolean stuff, which is true or false, and equals is, it's like in coding, it's what's the word? Too tired. Well, it's just a a check. So if a condition is always like an if statement. If me, the bum, is indoors, if the bum me is indoors equals 1, which is true. No, it has to be 0. We add this to this one line, which starts the whole conversation. If he is indoors, this conversation, if he is outdoors, if he is not indoors, this conversation will take place. If he is indoors, this conversation will not take place. You cannot initiate this conversation. So, me indoors is false. That's a condition for this conversation to happen. Let's add something else. If the target is something. Well, let's just add something that's in this under this circumstance is useless. But if the target is player, so if it's true that the target is a player, then this conversation will happen. All these conditions mean that you can, let's say that you have a trader, like a guy who sells stuff, and you walk into a shop, right? And you ask him, like, can I buy stuff? And he says yes. Now imagine that you have just kidnapped him, and you've taken him to your town, and he's hanging upside down from like a prisoner torture pole or something like that. And then you go and talk to him, and he responds, yeah, sure, let's do the trade. That doesn't work. So you will want to add conditions to the conversation. Let's say is is all right. So me, let's say the bum is is in locked cage. If the bum is in a locked cage, or in this imaginary scenario, a trader is locked in a cage, he's not going to be like, oh sure, let's do the trade. And there's a lot of things you need to take into consideration, especially with a game like Kenshi, because you never know in what situation you'll find your characters in. Like, I've had these weirdest moments where when I was like starting off, when some dude, I can't remember what it was exactly, but he took one of my dudes to this really random place in under very strange circumstances, and he was like, he's talking funny because he's acting like nothing's wrong, and he's like being eaten by something. I can't remember what it was, but it was so random. So I was like, oh shit, like I gotta add a lot more conditions to this conversation to take place. And Kenshi's one of those games where you really have to like start simple and then test it out, and then you're like, well, yeah, this actually, like, if the dude is, if you take somebody to your own town by force, then pretty much they're not going to behave in the same way as they would if they were hanging around in their hometown, and which is another condition that you can set, that person has to be in their hometown. And you can add 2 dialogues for a person when you talk to them. One dialogue happens outside of their hometown, which is like, let me go home please, if they're in a locked cage in a player town or something like that. And the other one will stay locked, and then the opposite will happen if you take them back to their hometown. Then they will initiate the normal dialogue, and the other dialogue will be locked. So it's a game of sort of locking and unlocking dialogues when it comes to different situations. But I think, yeah, this is, you understand how this works, and you just need to play around with this and just check all the stuff. Like, you can make a sexist dude, and also you only need one command, which is let's say target is female. Let's say sorry, I'm getting tired. Target is female equals not true. So the target is not a female, which automatically means that it's a male in this binary world of Kenshi. So you don't need a separate is male 1 or is female equals 1, which is true. You just need is female or is male, and then you can do the opposites here. One thing to add is greater than, let's say, player money. So this is good for let's say trade. So somebody will not give you a dialogue option for, let's say, if you give me $2,000, I will tell you something. If you don't have the $2,000, you can't open the dialogue. So player money has to be greater than 1999, and you would add this, yeah, target. So this means that if the player has more money than 1999 cats, then the dialogue will be open. If the player has too much money for the person's liking, you can just reverse it, and that's how this works. The value is, in some cases, 0 or 1, if it's a true or false kind of question or condition, or then if it's about money or relations. Reputation, I don't think does anything, so it's relations. If the relations are really bad with the person you're trying to talk to, they're not going to treat you friendly. So you can lock friendly conversation off to players that treat somebody bad. But this is how it works, and these are the conditions. Interjections are something that I'm not going to go into too deeply now, but it's, let's say you go to Mongrel, and there's this couple of dudes in the bar, and they sort of have a conversation with each other, but the conversation is initiated by them seeing the player squad, but they still talk to each other. And an interjection is somebody else joining into the conversation. So let's say the bum has as a friend, so you can add an interjection node. I'll show you what it looks like. Interjection node, and then he's the interjector 1, the imaginary friend in this case, and then he says something. The second person sort of interrupts the conversation or joins in on the conversation, and then you can carry on with your normal conversation. But I'll leave that for now, since I've done it in like one mod, but then it's been such a long time, so I can't. I'm not too certain of what I'm talking about, so I'll leave it at that. But that's something you can do if you just test it out a little bit. But then, yeah, this is pretty much, the dialogue's ready. The conditions are set for the beginning of the conversation, and you can add these conditions anywhere you want in the dialogue. But for now, we're just going to add them to the beginning. This means that if these conditions are not met, then the conversation will not be available. So, the target has to be outside, because there's 0 there. The target me has to be outside. The target, which is the player, has to be the player, which is obvious already from the player talk to me, but you know, sometimes you want to stop dialogue from just happening. And then me is not in a lock cage. So if all of these are true, the dialogue will run. So here is 2 more things that you need to know about dialogue, which is the effects. And it's pretty straightforward. Some of these don't work. You can test them out and just see what happens. But let's jump into another dialogue. Or should we? No, I'll just show them for the example, because this video is getting to be like 3 hours long soon. 2.5 hours now, right? So these are effects that can take place. So let's say, thank you for this interesting insight into your very personal matters. We're so happy that he told us that we are going to give him money, which in this case means we take money from ourselves, and we take 5 cats, and we add the effect. So when this happens, we take money from ourselves. And I think, because this editor is really weird sometimes, so if you add it here, it still will take the money from you, but then some effects will depend on who's saying it and stuff, and that's why I sometimes get really tired for modding dialogues especially. But these are all kinds of effects that you can add to a dialogue. So there's enslaved target, lock this dialogue, merge with similar squad. I'm not sure that works. I don't think it does. Join squad fast means that the bum is going to join your squad, and in this case the value doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you put 1 million there, or actually you can't put 1 million there. Let me just try that because I said it just for the, yeah, 100, 99999 is the largest one. But anyways, the value doesn't matter because there's no question, or it doesn't have anything to do with money or an amount. It just means that they'll join your squad fast, which means there's no editor. Then there's join squad with editor, or edit, so you can edit the bum if they join you, and things like that. Affect reputation and relation. So I made a mod back in the day where before the pacifiers were in the game, I made I can't remember if I called them pacifiers. I don't think I did. If I did, they ripped me off, god damn it. But I made like people who would, like diplomats who would for money they would improve or relations with people and stuff like that. And then trade is trade. You know, these are just effects that will happen when that line is said. And usually it's best to add them here in the last one, but I'll just add it there for, I don't know, just to see if it works maybe. And then the last one is this submenu. So this is a separate conditions menu. It works the same way as this one, pretty much, except for, you know, a few exceptions where you need to add some numbers. So let's say my race, it adds a condition. My race is any of the given races. Multiple races is stated as is treated as, I don't know what is treated as because it won't say it. Oh, hold up. Wow, I can actually move this. I didn't. Either I never knew how they changed it. Multiple races is treated as an or condition. So if you add Greenlander and score. No, not an AI contract. Greenlander, Scorchlander. This means that if the my race, oh yeah, my race has to be right. So it's my race is his race. It should be my sub race target. Where's that? Hold up. Target race. Yeah, there we go. So he will only say things to certain race. So you can add different things like racist shit this bum would say if you were a Shek or something, like the Holy Nation does. Let's see if there's anything. His character is also weird because it the speaker only, right? So you can add like an it doesn't work the way that you would think it does, or how I would wish it does, so that it would recognize a character, because that would, in certain situations, really help if dialogue would only be said to a single person, but you can't do it, I don't think. Let's see. You can. Well, this is actually an important test that I did. So you can lock. You can lock the dialogue over here, and then you can unlock another dialogue so that when you've spoken once to the person, then you can speak with them again and use a different dialogue, and the old dialogue doesn't repeat itself forever. So you can, keep it fresh as well and use it for different things. But it only works in a way where you cannot unlock another character's dialogue, so you can only unlock the character of the same dialogue, and this means that you cannot do missions where you give number 1 dialogue to the bum, number 2 dialogue to bum 2 in a different town, and then number 3 dialogue with bum 1 again. I hope you're following, because you cannot unlock other characters' dialogues. This limits missions and quests a lot. That's why you don't see that many quests or anything for Kenshi, because you can't. The only way you can do something like that is by spawning an item that the bum gives you, which will then unlock a dialogue for another person, who will give you an item that will unlock another dialogue. So that just means that they will sort of. The only way that I've done it is either by it's like a sending letters quest, which in one of my mods happens, or then you just honestly tell the player that this is a token to unlock the next conversation. It has nothing to do with anything. You can throw it away afterwards or something like that, just to let the player know that this is the only way to sort of handle it. So unfortunately, you can only lock dialogue of one person. Give item, I guess I should mention that. Well, it actually mentions it here. it will conjure the item out of thin air. So you cannot also trade items in this sense. You cannot take an item from another person through dialogue. You can trade with them. And I think at some point I tried to create a trade where the person I talked to would only accept certain items and everything else was illegal. And it sort of, I think I sort of got it working, but then it was too awkward to add. And with mods, it's really important that they are functional, and obvious in ways, rather than just creating something that you'd really like and then you figure out all these strange ways of completing your task without and forgetting that somebody actually has to play it in a fresh way. They don't know what's going on and stuff, so they don't think like you. So it's usually best to just keep it as simple as possible and as functional, like 99% functional. And every time there's a problem, you should find a fix for it. You should fix it yourself, and you should never ask the player to sort of fix it. And in some cases I've broken this rule because the mod itself is so sort of important that it doesn't matter if there's a little thing here or there that might occur sometimes. But mostly if you're doing something, it should work like 99% of the time. Like 99 players go through it and everything works, and that 1% will tell you that you fucked up, and then you'll fix it, and then another 1%er will come back and tell you you fucked up, and that's the way you learn, pretty much. But I digress. This is another conditions tab. So my faction has to be my faction, has to be this, has to be that, and then the dialogue will happen. Alright, so we're done with this dialogue now. I think it works, but usually when I test something, I've completely forgot some simple thing and I have to come back and do it again. But we'll trust that it is working. And now we're back, finally back in the dialogue package that we started from. And we won't press new because we already created it. We will add a dialogue and we will filter it down. And this is the dialogue that will happen when the player talks to me, which is the bum. The next thing, you can check these out, and if you want to add some personal stuff for certain characters, you can add them here, like poison gas, acid water, something that like a skeleton goes into acid and he's like, you know, fuck you humans, I don't give a shit. Betrayal, it's for if you have a contract with somebody, and then which is in the other conditions tab, which I totally forgot to show you. I'll show it in a moment. I think this is specifically for if someone's your temporary ally and then you try and kill them or something. Not sure if it works, I've never tested it. And some like unlock shackles and things like that. You can add dialogues all you want, but I think you cannot repeat a single dialogue in the same package more than, was it 3 times or 5 times? But yeah, the best way to sometimes unlock dialogue, or just I'll show you the screamy shouty thing that makes me see a person, but this is where the best way to just initiate dialogue no matter what happens. So they see a neutral squad, they will say things whenever they see a neutral squad, and I will add a new dialogue here, which is bum screamy shouty, and the dialogue has limitations. The first line has limitations, so the target has to be in speaking distance. Let's check that out. It's been so long I always forget. Target and talking range equals 1. So the target, the random person, whoever happens to come in the way of the bum, has to be in talking range for this to happen. Also, let's see. well, is in talking range is pretty much what I sort of want for this to be. So he just sees somebody in town. So screams gibberish. Is it two R's? Well, he's gibberish and whatever. Screams gibberish. I'll add another line. Shouts his mama's name. And then that's it. Fine. He'll just repeat that every 20 minutes just to annoy everybody. Alright. But then the other line is that target is in talking range, actually, yes, and target is player, yes, because I think this does make a difference, but I've seen a lot of the vanilla dialogue, they have this separately, so I just trust this. So this is what he says when he sees random numbers, when he sees the player, and the length of the text, like how long does the text appear in game, depends on the length of the text. So if you write a really long sentence, it will stay there for a long time. If you just write something short, it'll stay there for a short time. Then he'll say, wait, you come to me. We need to talk. This is like the most cliche-ish thing ever. But yeah, this is what he says if he sees the player. And actually, yeah, target, I need to add that there. So this is what he says to everyone who is not the player, and this is what he says to the player. But I think I should actually, let me just, and don't, I think you can delete like little lines that are before other lines, but then you need to shut the window down and open it again. So it's better just to copy paste the text like that. Oh crap, I fucked it up, didn't I? Alright. So also we'll add an effect where where is it? Follow while talking, and even though like the value could be, let's just in case, let's just put it to 1, so that yes, he will follow while talking. So he will start following the player when he sees him, and then you can talk to him. And what you could do is unlock this, make this line unlock the dialogue, but it doesn't really matter at this situation. You can start talking to the bum if you want to. But I think we've gone through everything except for these two. The AI contract is a limited contract that you can give him, which is an AI package, a limited AI package you can give a person when they talk to you. So this is like there should be a bodyguard. So it's a bodyguard. Let's choose that for just to show it. And here's the number of hours that the bodyguard mission will stay. So 72 hours. And I'll delete this, but then you can add like a dialogue, like how many, like pay me for 3 days, pay me for a week or something like that. And then you can add the hours to the end of it. And then you can add dialogue which ends, which they say after the mission is over. I think I never got it to work, but it's not probably because it doesn't work, but it was because I lost interest because something didn't work the first time, and then I was like, fuck it, I'll just do something else. Change AI, I think, just changes the AI completely, but I think you might have to, there's clear AI somewhere here. There we go. You need to first clear the AI maybe, and then change the AI. But change means that something changes into something else, so maybe you don't need to clear the AI, but it's a good thing to do anyways. Right. I don't think there's anything. And also world state is really good. So if let's say Beep is dead, then everyone in the world will start talking about Beep and how it's sad that he died. So here's how to use the world state for that. That's pretty much it, I think, in all its simplicity and complexity. So now we have a dialogue that he just shouts at people. Oh God, did I? I think I screwed up. I gotta change that. Yeah, there we go. So you can move lines around. I'm not sure if you were able to do that before, like before release, but now you can, which is really good. So yeah, I think we're done here. Yes. So now we add the dialogue. So this one is whenever they see a neutral squad. There's also one for enemy squad, and I think there's one for allied squad. So if you're allied with some faction, then you need to take it into consideration that this neutral squad no longer works with the player because you are no longer neutral, you are allied. There we go. So now the package has 2 dialogues, and now we can go all the way back. And sometimes it feels good to just close all the windows and open the character Beach Bum. And now that he's named, he's not called Beach Bum, he has a name from the game. But we can finally add... Did we add the AI? No, we did not. Did we even make it yet? I think we did. Didn't we? Yeah. Oh yeah, because this is the character, right. So, we need to go to the squads. There we go. So you add it in the squads. Or you add it in the character. The AI packages can only be added here, and I've already done it. But, I think actually, let's go back. It's more precise to add the dialogue pack, because you didn't used to be able to add dialogue packs to single characters, so that's why I'm sort of old school when it comes to Kenshi editor. But now you can add the pack, so he should have this pack here. What you can also do is just add the dialogue if you just want to talk to him. It's really simple, or it's more simpler that way, and usually simple is better. Less moving parts is good. So now what we need to do is make him spawn into the town, which is the port in the north. This one. So like I said, residents are the people who own buildings in the town. So you have the noble with his, I guess, slaves and guardians and stuff. He owns the certain building, and let's just check out what it's called. So it's called Noble House. Designation is residential because he's a resident. The building name doesn't have to be there because Noble House is pretty descriptive of where he lives. Then there's Slave Cage Shack. Layout interior cages. Good enough, I guess. Building designation, none. It's not useful. But this one is the most important thing, because there has to be an interior that is saved under this name in-game and saved in the mod. But we will go the easy way and add this guy as a bar squad. And bar squads, I think I mentioned it earlier, they're just squads that hang around in the town. Not necessarily in bars, but they just hang around there. And that means that you can, it's a good way to test things first, to just spawn them. And all the squads that don't need a building, just use the bar squads and you got them. Let's see what else is here just to check it out. So, roaming squad, trade. I think we went through this a little bit too. And also, I think you can have residents of different factions in a town, and they will, I think they will own the building that, like the Thieves Guild, they will own the building inside that that faction town, and they could be a different faction. But anyways, now our bum squad should spawn. We should be able to start the game as them, and most likely something will go wrong. Something is wrong. I've missed something totally simple, even though I did this very simply. But I'm sure something went wrong, but we're going to test it out now. The last thing I'll show you is, well, last two things I'll show you is this one. This has all kinds of settings that you can just play around with that are, you know, global settings. Global constants is actually a better way to say it, which is like, let's see here. The number of attack slots is, there's a few mods that increase it. It just means that how many people can attack one person at a time. So if you add this to 10, I'm not sure if it's even possible, but you have like 10 people simultaneously attacking one guy, which is sort of realistic, but then I think around 3 or 4, 5 max is like realistic, because if you have like a total brawl with 10 people attacking one guy, even when like Caesar was stabbed, somebody stabbed one of the stabbers and stuff, so it, you know, things can get out of hand real quick. But there's other stuff here, like max squad size. It's a really downloaded mod, but all you need to do is open the editor, click this, and change it, and then you're done. That's all the mod does. So a lot of the most downloaded mods are like the simplest things that you can actually do yourself. But it's really nice that some people do it, because I know what the sort of what it feels like to start off and you don't know anything what you're doing, and if you do something you don't know if you did it wrong and stuff. But with the editor you can just like test things out, and the good thing is that you can always just delete the mod file and then you're good to go. Like you can't break anything, so you can test anything you want out, and then if the game crashes, like you change these like skeleton meshes and stuff and you don't know what they are, you shouldn't mess with those. But with the mod thing, you can just delete this if you want to and run the game and see what happens. But there's a lot of these there's a lot of things that you can, you know, change here and just try them out, just to give you the feel of just like switching numbers and then nothing explodes, and things actually might be better the next time you play Kenshi or whatever. But now, oh yeah, the second one was Steam Workshop. If you want to upload your mod, you just click this one. You give your mod a title, which in this case would be like Beach Bum 3000 or something. Then your own name, doesn't matter. The version number goes from 1 up, so you can't put like 0 point something. Description is a description of the mod. Here you can tag it with whatever is happening. So for this mod, it's just characters, and is there actually a game start? No, but and then change notes every time you update it. And here you can click this, and you can create an image for the mod, which I'm not going to do because I'm horrible at drawing. If you've played my Cannibal mod, you'll know the pouch that I made. And actually I need to change it because somebody thought it was so ugly that they spent time to fix it, and I still haven't uploaded it because I haven't had time. But yeah, then you click upload and it'll upload, and that's good. And always like ram the save button just in case. So now we're done. Let me close the editor and we'll go to Kenshi and we'll see if our magical beach master is there. Select none. I've got the nude and the bouncing boobs. Can't live without him. Now where is that test? There we go. And it's actually been a while since I've played this. Yeah. See what happens. So this video was really long, and I should chop it up, but I'm not going to because I don't want to. So you can just like ASMR it or watch it and just play around, and or you can watch it in parts, which is probably a good idea. Oh my god, you can see my shit. I need to edit this part out. Alright, so you could see my my game key, which is awesome, so I need to edit that out. But so yeah, just watch it in parts or something, or just watch it. It's really long, but I went through everything, pretty much everything that I know, as thoroughly as I can without it being over thorough, if that's a word. But we'll try our mod now, and if it doesn't appear here, I've already screwed up. There we go. We have $70, which is pretty much my stuff. Here's the playstyle, and there's desert. Difficulty is easy. It's easy being me, and we'll run the game, and hopefully we will see our little bum shouting at somebody. Hopefully he doesn't start shouting just yet before the game loads in. That's perfect. So let's see. He should be up here, unless there's another port north. Is it that guy? I think it's this dude. No. He's slave traders. Did we put give him a faction? I think I made him a drifter. Let's see. Damn, I chose the wrong clothing because there's like a lot of people. Oh, there he is. Robotic leg. And he's coming to me, so he's following me as he talks. But now I need to initiate it. You can also make him initiate the conversation when he's like following me around. But now he's just repeating himself. Wait, come on. Alright, so let's have our little conversation with our good-looking friend here. Alright. Would you like to converse with me? I'll say no first. Alrighty then. Oh my god, did it lock? Oh no, there's the 20-minute... Did I put a 20-minute thing on it? Well, anyways, I was hoping that I could just click anything. I can't remember if I added some limitation to it. But if it's 20-minute in-game time, let me speed up the process. Or maybe it just... I can't remember what I did. Maybe I locked it. But now he won't leave me alone. I think I added the 20-minute to it. Where did he go, by the way? Because if he's going to shout at somebody else, then... There he is. I think 20 minutes have gone. Alright, whatever. You got the idea. So this is how you mod Kenshi, and look at what a beautiful man we made together. Look. Oh, I can talk to him again. Alright, let's try it. So yeah, let's try this one. So this is the dialogue is supposed to continue after this one, so it should loop over to the middle of this branch and then end. So it depends on whether it's something interesting you want to say. Of course it is. Goes on a tirade. Thank you very much. Alright, and the money too. So we paid $5 for that interesting tirade. Wasn't it interesting? I think he had a few good points, but then the rest was garbage. Alright, we're done. Hope you're happy. If you have any questions, write them down in the comments and I will help you out. Also find me on Steam. Download my mods. Give me money and worship me. And if you have any mod ideas, you can also write them down in the comments, and then I will see if I could figure out a way to do it in some realistic fashion, and I'll give it like 1 minute of thinking, and then I'll tell you to, try it out. And then if you fail, you can always come back and we can talk and see what we can figure out. And that's how great ideas are born. Have a happy Christmas, actually, and whatever, New Year and life and stuff. Don't end up like this guy. End up like this guy. A modder. With very disproportionate body parts.